Bob Tiarks here with you. It's a semi-cloudy Wednesday, but at least it's warm. And it's also time for our monthly visit with retired West Bend Fire Captain Kenny Aslan. Fireman Kenny, welcome.
WPLG 715, Fireman Kenny's on the air, helping you to stay safe in a world where danger never takes a vacation. Fireman Bob is filling in as co-host for this month's episode. Bob, thank you for your time for filling in as host of the Fireman Kenny Show this month.
Well, thank you, Fireman Kenny, for allowing me to be your June guest host. You know, Kenny, we go all the way back to our younger years, and it is my honor to be here with you this month. On a quick note, the opening of the month podcast is in tribute to Rick Jensen, who said almost the exact same words on your first podcast in the new format in February 2024.
Yeah, for all of our listeners who are not aware, Firefighter Bob and I go way back. So we were in Cub Scouts together, Butler Elementary School together, where it closed after third grade for me, fourth grade for him. Butler Volunteer Fire Department, Inc. for a number of years. And also our career paths followed the same path as far as I was a dispatcher for Brown Deer PD and Fire, and Bob was for City of Brookfield PD and Fire. And we had a lot of good times in the evening hours on third shift.
Third shift was a lot of fun back in the day, and sitting in the chair was a very meaningful time, at least in my career, and I hope as yours as well.
So as Bob had said, the first episode of the month is in the former WIBD format. The show would like to honor the memory of the late Rick Jensen by continuing the show in the same format as we were on the first Tuesday of the month on Magnum Media's WIBD, which is now WRYU. Thank you to Magnum Media for allowing Rick to have those community risk reduction segments on the community conversation piece for almost 7 years. The Fireman Kenny Show would not exist if it wasn't for Rick Jensen and Magnum Media. Once the call letters and format changed, Rick continued to host the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts until his untimely death in April. If you are in the West Bend and Cedarburg area, be sure to listen to Magnum Media's WRYU, We Rock You, on 101.3 and 93.9 FM, as well as 1470 AM. If you are outside the area, you can live stream the station's website, rockwryu.com, or you can listen on Alexa by saying, Alexa, play WRYU. Also, be sure to follow, like, and subscribe to the Fireman Kenny Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or whatever platform you're listening to the show. Be sure to follow the Fireman Kenny Show on Facebook for updates to the show, as well as information on future guests. And this show is looking for sponsors as well. If you'd like to sponsor the Fireman Kenny Show podcast, feel free to contact us for potential sponsorship opportunities. We will mention the National Fire Sprinkler Association when we talk about NFSA-reported sprinkler saves. We are also listing Fire Suppression Solutions as one of our sponsors for the fire suppression tools, or the FSTs, and other items donated to the West Bend Fire Department, as well as other fire agencies throughout the state of Wisconsin. Here's a word from our sponsor.
Fire can strike without warning, leaving you with precious little time to react. And if you are not prepared, the damage can be devastating to life and property. In the blink of an eye, your home or business could be on fire, with flames doubling in size every 30 seconds, leaving you helpless and unable to respond. Don't let this nightmare become a reality. That starts with being prepared. Our fire suppression products are designed to equip you with an effective response to any fire emergency, all while limiting additional damage, making you the true first responder, giving you the peace of mind that you have what you need to keep your loved ones and property safe until more help comes. Do you have a plan to respond to a fire emergency at your home or business? Protect your family, pets, and property with the tools from Fire Suppression Solutions. Contact us today and finish putting your plan into effect before it's too late.
For more information on Fire Suppression Solutions, you can visit firess.us.
Well, we've made it to June, where we have June Brides, June Bugs, Juneau, Alaska, and June Carter Cash. What else do we have in June, Fireman Kenny?
Well, Bob, for June, we've got our monthly shout-outs. So first, we have to give our condolences to the friends and family of burn survivor George Bennett. George passed away on May 16th. George was burned in 1995 when he was cleaning a flammable liquid storage tank where a spark started a fire inside the tank. George was a strong advocate for burn survivors and a supporter of the Wisconsin Burn Camp. George was the keynote speaker at the PFFW Charitable Foundation Fire Safety Recognition Luncheon in October of 2022. He will be greatly missed by those who knew him. Our next shout out goes to Jeff Wiedner from King's Catering for bringing a food truck to the Wisconsin State Fire Inspectors Association Area 1 chapter meeting at the City of Burlington Fire Department. Fire Inspector Ronnie Mason conducted the training for food truck requirements. Having a food truck on site helped with the visuals for the WSFIA members in attendance. Also, speaking of WSFIA, thank you to Honeywell Business Development Manager Greg Kaufman for conducting training on lithium-ion batteries for the Area 6 chapter members at the Ashippun Fire Department. A number of fires with lithium-ion batteries is on the rise, so the additional training from companies like Honeywell helps to improve responses as well as helps to increase the outreach to the public from the knowledge gained by fire service personnel. Also, we have to thank the Fireman Kenny Show guests we've had over the last month. If you haven't heard the previous Fireman Kenny Show installments, make sure to go back and listen to the episodes for all of the great information provided. We'd like to thank the staff from 414 Life in Milwaukee and Fredert and the Medical College of Wisconsin for their time about talking about Gun Violence Awareness Month. North Shore Fire Department Fire Marshal Matt Mertens, who was interviewed about Building Safety Month. Chris Bell from Cedar Lake Sales, who is also a motor pump operator and paramedic with the West Bend Fire Department, who talked about Safe Boating Week. And last, Peg Paul from the Home Fire Sprinkler Coalition, who was on the show to talk about Home Fire Sprinkler Week.
I would like to make a quick shout out to all the dairy farmers, as June is also National Dairy Month. And as a part-time worker on a dairy farm, it is time to celebrate all the dairy industry has to offer. So, Fireman Kenny, do we have any sprinkler saves this month?
Why, yes, Bob, we do. So we have our monthly sprinkler saves, or otherwise known as fires you never hear about, because there's no news in something that was stopped from happening. And as I pointed out, I'm an advocate of fire sprinkler systems and a dues-paying member of the National Fire Sprinkler Association, www.nfsa.org. Be sure to follow the National Fire Sprinkler Association on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So our first sprinkler save comes from the Milwaukee Fire Department. Thank you to Chief Aaron Lipsky for sending this one to Steve Howard from the National Fire Sprinkler Association. And thank you to WTMJ4 News for covering the story. On Tuesday, May 13th, the Milwaukee Fire Department was dispatched to the Milwaukee Area Technical College downtown campus for a chair on fire. A student in the area of the Student Center noticed the chair was on fire. The fire was extinguished by the activation of a single sprinkler head. And thank you to CBS 58 News for the additional information on the case. Charges were filed on May 15th against 40-year-old Jerry L. Cotton after he allegedly set fire to an upholstered chair on the third floor of the downtown MATC campus building. Law enforcement states that on May 13th around 6:11 a.m., video footage captured Cotton entering the front doors of the downtown MATC building and walked up to the third floor. Shortly before 7 a.m., he was observed walking into a common seating area and using a lighter to ignite a cloth and wood-structured chair. He then walked away and exited the building. So again, this is another thing what happens when we talk about sprinkler saves. You never know who's doing what, and this person came in and really meant to do some harm in the area, and thank goodness for the sprinkler save and sprinkler systems, because this could have been a lot worse if there was not a sprinkler system in the building.
Right, Kenny. You know, not only did the sprinkler system suppress the fire, it minimized the damage sustained to the building and the reduction in loss of class time for other students.
Exactly. We were coming towards the end of the semester. It's probably going to be exam time around that time. So there are definitely going to be some people that are very happy that classes were able to continue without any change in routine.
Do we have any other ones, Kenny?
Yeah, so our next one comes from Beloit. So thank you to 608 Public Safety on Facebook for reporting this one. And thanks to Chief Pease from the Beloit Fire Department for sending the confirmation. At 1:40 a.m. on May 19th, the Beloit Fire Department was dispatched to a fire at Hillcrest Senior Apartments in the 2200 block of Burton Street. The fire was contained to the unit of origin and controlled by the building sprinkler system. One occupant was rescued and treated for burns to the lower extremities. Fire department units cleared the scene at 3:43 in the morning. So again, this is a time when everybody's sleeping and somebody may not have noticed the fire initially. So again, having that sprinkler system saved a lot of lives.
Wow. Not only did this minimize damage, it potentially saved many lives. Being at 1:40 in the morning, it's crazy.
Yes, so our next sprinkler save comes from the Pleasant Prairie Fire Department. Thanks to Carson Wilkinson for making us aware of this one when he commented on John Cohn's LinkedIn post about fire sprinklers. And thank you to the Pleasant Prairie Fire Department for putting the details on their Facebook page. Pleasant Prairie Fire Rescue responded to 15 calls on Memorial Day, including responding to smoke in the underground garage of a local apartment building. Firefighters arrived on location to find a dumpster on fire. A single sprinkler head was activated, controlling the fire and limiting it from spreading to adjacent vehicles. The dumpster was removed from the structure and extinguished. Crews remained on location for several hours to remove smoke from the building.
Wow, an underground parking structure are some of the most dangerous fires to attack as a firefighter. Thanks to the quick action of the sprinkler head, firefighters are not exposed to those potentially dangerous situations.
And our last one comes from the City of Madison Fire Department. Thank you to City of Madison Fire Department Fire Protection Engineer Matt Hamilton for sending this one. One resident was transported to the hospital in stable condition after a single sprinkler extinguished a fire. 911 received a water flow alarm at 10:22 p.m. on May 28th, as well as multiple calls from residents reporting smoke and water coming from a unit on the third floor. Engine 13 was the first on scene to find a sprinkler system had already extinguished the fire originating in the kitchen area of an apartment. Engine 5 proceeded to shut down the sprinkler system, while Ladder 14 assisted with ventilation of the unit. Medic 5 transported the resident to the hospital for further evaluation. The damage to the apartment of the origin was minor. On-site staff organized overnight accommodations for residents in surrounding apartments who had minor water infiltration. Red Cross was contacted to assist the resident in the apartment of origin. While a damage estimate is unknown, damages to both life and property were minimized by the activation of the sprinkler system.
So, Fireman Kenny, how many sprinkler saves have been reported in Wisconsin so far in 2025?
Well, so far we have 17 reported fire sprinkler saves in Wisconsin in 2025. I'm waiting on confirmation of one more that I was told about, but they haven't been able to do the press release yet. And again, these are reported sprinkler saves. So if you're going to report a sprinkler save in Wisconsin, you can send an email to sprinklersave@wsfia.org.
So, Fireman Kenny, the National Safety Council has declared June National Safety Month.
That's right, Bob. So the annual observance to help keep each other safe from the workplace to any place. Since 1996, National Safety Month has provided free safety resources to highlight leading causes of preventable injury and death. Let's make people safer this June and all year long. So the National Safety Council has come up with some weekly themes. So June 1st through the 7th is continuous improvement. June 8th through the 14th is employee engagement. June 15th to the 21st is roadway safety, and June 22nd to the 30th is well-being. So we can talk about workplace injuries and deaths. So the number of preventable work deaths decreased 3% in 2023, totaling 4,543. In addition to preventable fatal work injuries, 740 homicides and suicides occurred in the workplace in 2023. These intentional injuries are not included in the preventable injury estimates. The decrease in preventable work deaths in 2023 occurred despite a 1.7% increase in hours worked. As a result of the decreasing number of deaths and increasing number of hours worked, the preventable injury death rate decreased 6% from 3.2 per 100,000 workers in 2022 to 3.0 in 2023. Work-related medically consulted injuries totaled 4.07 million in 2023. As in previous years, the industry sector experienced the largest number of preventable fatal injuries was construction, followed by transportation and warehousing. The industry sector experiencing the highest fatality rates per 100,000 workers was agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting, followed by mining.
So, Fireman Kenny, what are the work-related fatality trends?
Well, Bob, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics data indicates a 3% decrease in preventable deaths from 4,695 in 2022 to 4,543 in 2023. This corresponds to a 1.7% growth in the workforce from 159,379,000 workers in 2022 to 162,102,000 in 2023. Consequently, the death rate decreased 6% from 3.2 per 100,000 workers in 2022 to 3.0 in 2023. This decrease in the preventable death rate snaps 2 years of increasing rates and matches the rate achieved in 2020. Noteworthy, homicides and suicides, excluded from preventable injury estimates, experienced a 6% decrease from 791 in 2022 to 740 in 2023, but the rate was unchanged at 0.5 deaths per 100,000 workers.
Fireman Kenny, what are the top related injury causes?
Okay, so over 2021 to 2022, overexertion and bodily reaction had the most days away restricted or transferred, or DART, cases at just over 1 million, followed by contact with objects and equipment with over 780,000 cases. Falls, slips, trips with over 674,000 cases, and exposure to harmful substances or environments with over 658,000 cases. Notably, 96.3% of the total exposure to harmful substances or environment cases involved at least 1 day away from work. Of the total DART cases due to overexertion and bodily reaction, 521,000 cases, or 52.1%, were days away from work DAFW cases.
Fireman Kenny, these stats that you're sharing with us were from 2023, which I'm assuming is the most recent time that you have this information, which is closely related to the events related to COVID-19. Do you have any information on work-related injuries and illnesses pertaining to the effects of COVID-19?
Yeah, because of illness cases related to COVID-19, the leading cause of work-related injuries and illnesses involving days away from work over 2021 and 2022 is exposure to harmful substances or environments. Exposure to harmful substances or environments was previously the 6th-ranked cause. The next two most prevalent causes of injury and illness involving days away from work are overexertion and bodily reaction and slips, trips, and falls. These top 3 causes account for more than 75% of all non-fatal injuries and illnesses involving days away from work. Exposure to harmful substances or environments includes exposure to electricity, exposure to radiation and noise, exposure to temperature extremes, exposure to air and water pressure changes, exposure to other harmful substances, so that includes contagious and infectious diseases such as COVID-19, exposure to oxygen deficiency, and exposure to traumatic or stressful event. So overexertion and bodily reaction includes non-impact injuries, so resulting from excessive physical effort directed to an outside source. Common activities include lifting, pushing, turning, holding, carrying, or throwing. Repetitive motion, such as microtasks resulting in stress or strain on some part of the body due to the repetitive nature of the task, typically without strenuous effort such as heavy lifting. So slips, trips, and falls include the following types of events. Slips and trips without falling, so injuries occurring when a worker catches themselves from falling due to a slip or trip. Falling on the same level, which includes tripping, slipping, falling while sitting, and falling onto or against an object on the same level. Falling to a lower level, which includes falling from a collapsing structure, falling through surfaces, and falling from ladders, roofs, scaffolding, and other structures. And jumping to a lower level, so that's different from falls because they are controlled and voluntary. So prior to 2020, contact with objects and equipment was the 3rd leading cause of injury and illness involving days away from work and accounting for 16.7% of cases in 2020. Contact with objects and equipment, including a moving object striking a worker striking against an object or equipment, including bumping into, stepping on, kicking, or being pushed or thrown onto an object, a part of a worker's body being squeezed, pinched, compressed, or crushed in equipment, between shifting objects, between stationary objects, or in a wire or rope. A worker being struck, caught, or crushed in collapsing structure, equipment, or material. A worker being injured as a result of friction or pressure between the person and the source of the injury. And a worker being injured from vibration.
Fireman Kenny, there is a purpose behind the caution, warning, or danger signs that are on equipment. Where else can one go to find more information?
So for more information on National Safety Month, you can visit the National Safety Council website, www.nsc.org.
Fireman Kenny, what else do we have for the month of June?
Well, Bob, for our CRR awareness campaigns, we've got Fireworks Safety Month, Men's Health Month, Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, National Migraine and Headache Awareness Month, PTSD Awareness Month, National Camping Month, Trailer Safety Week, that's June 1st through the 7th, Community Health Improvement Week, June 9th through the 13th, National Nursing Assistance Week is June 12th through the 18th. And for July, we've got National Grilling Month, UV Safety Awareness Month, Vehicle Theft Prevention Month, and National Pet Fire Safety Day is July 15th.
Fireman Kenny, I want to thank you for allowing me to be your second guest host for the Fireman Kenny podcast. It has been my honor to be with you today, and I hope to look forward to coming again in future shows.
Well, thanks, Bob. So I'd like to thank retired Deputy Chief Bob Tiarks for helping to host the show. WPLG 715, Fireman Kenny is returning to quarters. The best weather is on the way, and the best way to enjoy it is with friends and family on the water. Whether it's fishing, tubing, or cruising, we have the perfect boat for you. Cedar Lake Sales has over 20,000 square feet of indoor showroom space and over 100 new and used boats to choose from. Quality brands like Crestliner, Bentley Pontoons, Yarcraft, Basscat, and Camus, all powered by Mercury Motors. Make memories on the water this summer at Cedar Lake Sales. View the inventory and specials at cedarlakesales.com.